Hello and welcome to Illumination Podcast with Nick and Kisma. I'm Nick, and today our topic is value. We're going to unpack this from a few different angles and how we create value in the world, how we create value in ourselves, and where we find that. You can find the episode show notes at illuminationacademy.net/INK131. And now let's get started.
Hello and welcome to Illumination Podcast with Nick and Kisma, bringing you ancient wisdom for modern day success so that you can have the mindset to get your life and business set.
As always, thank you for tuning in. And if you're new to the podcast, take a quick second to hit the subscribe button in iTunes, SoundCloud, or Stitcher. If you want to get the inside info for this and every episode, as well as some free gifts, go to illuminationacademy.net/podcasts. And now let's dive in to get your mindset for your life and business set. Well, hello, everybody. Normally, this is the part where I'd say, hey, Kisma, what's been happening with you? But I'm not doing that today because Kisma's not here. She's off in New York, and we wanted to stay consistent with the podcast schedule. And I've had this idea floating around in my head for quite a while now. And so we talked about it and decided I'd do a solo episode. Here we go, everybody. I'm not really sure exactly how this is going to go. And the topic that we're talking about today is value. And this is an incredibly broad topic, but I think it's a really important one to be having because we have this really interesting conversation going on all the time on all these different levels and layers of our lives. When we talk about value, it's like, well, what meaning do you put on something? And what does that mean to you in your life? Like, how valuable is that to you in your life? And by and large, we see a great misunderstanding of value. And I want to break this down from a few different layers so that we can have some more clarity, because when you clean this up for yourself, what it does is it helps to add an amazing sense of clarity in your life. So when your value system is either not clear or it is scattered in a bunch of different directions, which again would be kind of not clear, then what happens is we start to lose it and look for it in all the wrong places, which becomes a challenge in and of itself. And then we start looking for certain things in order to create value for us rather than being the master of our own lives, the leaders of our lives, and the masters of our reality. So what do I mean by that? Well, there's a great quote by Hunter S. Thompson, and he says, "People these days know the price of everything and the value of nothing." Now, I'm not sure that I'd go Hunter S. Thompson dark on this one. You know, he has a little bit of a different perspective on things, but he's really onto something important here. When we speak about value in the context of money is good for two things. Number one is you can just take the paper money and burn it, and you can stay warm for as long as that fire will burn. That's one way you can do it. Another way to use money is to exchange it for something of value in the world. It could be for food, clothing, electronics. It could be for a service that is required or needed for you. It could be for any number of other things. Like, think about all the different ways that you spend money in your life. And all of that is an exchange of value. So when you're talking about that, it becomes really important to understand, well, what am I looking for? What do I really want? We start to ask ourselves, well, what am I actually trying to buy here? So if you are spending your money on a service, like say you're hiring a plumber for your house because you don't want to figure out how to do plumbing on yourself. Well, you're buying plumbing for one, you're buying a service, somebody to handle that for you. But what are you really buying? You're buying time. Because could you figure it out for yourself? Yeah, probably. Would you do a good job? Probably not. Not a great job. The plumbing might be shoddy. It might not last for a very long time. It could bust all apart and cause an even bigger problem than before, right? So you're buying expertise and you're buying time back for sure. And you're also ensuring that the job gets done right. There's another great saying that says, if you think hiring a professional is expensive, you should try hiring an amateur. And I saw that Definitely being true in the musicians world, where a lot of times one of the struggles that musicians and artists face is communication of value into the world and into the marketplace. And one of the things that our culture is trending towards, I just see a trend towards it in certain ways. There's conversations around it, is that, these things are not really valuable, right? It's become commodified in a way that's just not really worth that much, except for people who have money to burn, so to speak. And so they would, oftentimes it's, we've got this great gig and you'll get all kinds of free exposure. It's like, all right, well, what kind of musicians do you think that you're going to get to do that for free? And I tell you, when you entrust a musician with the music for your event, that can go all kinds of wrong. So you're investing in and valuing the certainty that comes with knowing that you have a skilled professional on the task, right? I don't want to go way off on a tangent here, but when you look at where you're placing that, like you're placing a value on the experience that that person brings to the table, the expertise that that person brings to the table, and you're exchanging money for that. So a big part of you is actually buying peace of mind as well. I got a trusted person up there. I know they know what they're doing. They've got it handled. We're good to go, right? You breathe easy, and that's worth something. But many times when we get into the misunderstanding of value, they know the price of everything and the value of nothing. So it's not hard to find what something costs on average, but the true value of what that means in our lives and what that allows us to do gets distorted along the way. And when that gets distorted, we start to make choices that are out of alignment with that. So we say many times that we value having money in our lives, right? We value prosperity. We value having wealth, right? You have a value for that. That's great. And look at all the ways that we spend money that are not productive and not contributing to that. Tick it through it in your head. The different places where your money goes that are not really productive for what you want to accomplish. So some people get into shopping, like what do they call it? Shop therapy, right? So you're feeling badly about something, you want to go out and do some shop therapy, you'll feel a little bit better. That's great. You can spend a whole lot of money doing that for a temporary fix. If you really just understand, hey, something's off in me and I want to feel better. I'm not saying don't go shopping, but what I am saying is understand what you're really buying. You're buying some peace of mind back. Maybe it's a way for you to take control, to feel like, yeah, like I can go do this, I can go spend some money on something, and then I don't have to, it's going to help me feel a little bit better and I'll forget about what the problem was. And then when I come back to it, I'll feel better about it and I'll have a new perspective. Great, right? That's really cool. But what are you really buying? You're not buying shoes or clothes or anything like that, watches, whatever. What you're buying peace of mind. So that's what you really value. Where else can you create that? If you have a value for peace of mind, if you want to feel at peace, you want to feel safe, well, you can go and create that in external ways, or you can understand what it is that you're really trying to accomplish to begin with and go and create that within yourself. That's where you start to take real control over your life. Then it doesn't matter, like go out, spend the money, don't spend the money, buy the thing, don't buy the thing. That doesn't matter because that part within you that you're seeking to fill, that void that you're seeking to fill by some external thing, like bringing that external thing into your world, into your life, it's just going into a void. But when you've already dealt with that within yourself, great. Now it just adds something to your life that's wonderful. And we have the right placement of value, the right priority of value. The value is truly where you create it. And what we see in the consumer society and the consumer mindset is looking outside of ourselves for that value everywhere else, looking for somebody else to create that for us. And oftentimes for free. In the internet, in the internet industry, right? You're looking at in this time, the information age. Like we really think that there's a misunderstanding that all of the stuff that's free should just naturally be free, and all the information in the world should be free and all the knowledge that we can have. And we look to the content creators, we look to the people out there who are putting messages out there, who are contributing value into the marketplace, and expecting that to be free and just saying, oh, well, if, the misunderstanding around is that if we create more and more and more free content, then eventually like somebody will come in and buy, but and enroll in our services or whatever it is, and that's the reason that a lot of people in this industry, the advice giving industry or whatever that is, they have this upside down and they wind up setting it they wind up skewing the value of what they do in a way that's really not healthy for them or for the consumer, because it perpetuates that same misunderstanding that somebody else will do this for me. And the truth of the matter is that only you can create value for you, because it's created in your mind and it's created through your relationship with the world. So I'll give you a really simple answer. You can be walking down the street and you can hear a homeless person who is just ranting and raving mad. And one person can walk by and just hear absolutely nothing and just want to block it out and who knows, just go on about their day and just ignore the fact that that's happening. Another person can walk by and hear 2 words that person is saying, this raving lunatic saying, and get value from it. And it can actually change their life because they're listening, because they're looking for how that fits for them and how that translates into their life. And one person walks right by and says, that's a lunatic. I have no value for what that person has to say. Another person is open and receptive and saying, all right, show me what's here. And they take that and they do something with that information. It translates within them in a way that creates value. I was at an event recently. And when I go to events, I used to just, I really try to go, I try to go as the student. I'm not there to teach anybody else what I do. I'm there for that person who's putting on the event, and I'm there to learn. Absolutely. Not from a taking perspective as much as great. I'm here to be super receptive. And, even if it's a topic that I teach on currently, I don't assume that I absolutely know everything about that. I actually assume that, there's so much to learn, because the more you know, the less you know. How's that saying go? Something like that. If Kisma were here, she'd tell me, but I can't think of it right now. So anyway, the more you learn, the less you know. I think that's how it goes. There, she's channeling into my head right now. But regardless, that's the reason that I go, is I want to go as the student, right? And I see other people go to events and I see this kind of taking, they want to get, they want to have, they want to really, they're looking for that other person to solve their problem. They're looking for that person to give them what it is that they want. And I think that sets them up for failure. And I've seen time and again, I've seen people struggle with this, and they just, no matter what they do, no matter what's said, no matter how many times they get their question answered, they feel like they didn't get it. They're still trying to get it. And it comes back to the same problem. It comes back to that same issue, that is, they're looking for that value outside of themselves. For me, when I go to learn, I recognize that there's new information coming in, or it's information that's coming in that's in a different language or it's put in a different way, and an interaction in my mind in a particular way. And then I use that in order to gain a new insight, maybe from a different angle, from a different perspective, to look at something from a new way. And that to me is where the value comes from. And it's really understanding what we can do with what we have. Do you see how that consumer mindset is essentially, it's based on a lack mentality. It's based on the idea that I don't have and I have to get. And when you're really stepping in as a leader, it's an understanding that you actually do have, and absolutely other people can help to draw that out. So for me, when I hear something from a new perspective, it's activating information that's already there for me, but it's helping me to look at it from a new perspective and helping me to draw more out of that, which is already there, so that I can use it productively in my life, use it productively in my business, use it productively for my clients and for my students. But when we're constantly waiting for somebody else to give us that, you've just totally disempowered yourself. It's a misunderstanding of value. It's a misunderstanding of where that actually lies. It's not out there, everybody. It's within you. It's always been within you. And I'm not saying that, it's you and you alone. You have to do it you and you alone. Just make sure that we're super clear on that. I'm not saying just go figure it out for yourself. Always figure it out for yourself. What I am saying is that coaches, mentors, people, teachers in our lives, they can help to draw that out of us. Like, isn't that, if I remember correctly, I'm pretty sure that's the actual meaning of education, is to draw out. That only happens when we're recognizing that it's already there within us, because otherwise you're turning the flow of energy upside down, and it doesn't have that even flow of bringing in some new information, letting it activate something inside of us to draw something out of us. When we are constantly looking for somebody else's answer, well, that sets us up for failure, and it sets us up for struggle, and it sets us up to be disempowered. Because when we're looking so much for that answer and we think it's out there somewhere else, we'll grab onto anything that's there that kind of makes sense, and it might not be the right answer for you. And so when we misunderstand where the value comes from, we flip it upside down, we flip it all upside down, and we set ourselves up to struggle. We set ourselves up to be disempowered, and ultimately we set ourselves up for that to continue happening until that gets set to right. There's a great quote from a poem by William Cowper, and he says, "They whom truth and wisdom lead can gather honey from a weed." They who truth and wisdom lead can gather honey from a weed, right? The honey is that sweetness of life. And those who are guided and rooted in truth, the higher truths, everybody, not, factual evidence necessarily. It's, although it does reflect through that, but the higher truths of life and of living, that wisdom, right? Truth and wisdom lead. They can gather honey from a weed. It means to say that person can create beauty. They can create value everywhere they go. So for me, when I go to an event, I think for myself, like, all right, if I walk out of here with just one tiny thing that shifts my perspective, that can cause a ripple effect in my life that changes everything, changes the whole game, causes a quantum leap. I hold the space of possibility for that to happen, and I recognize the power of one tiny insight, one small thing that can create that ripple effect. You never know where that's going to lead. But when you're looking for that from somebody else and you're trying to get that thing and take that thing, right? Then what happens is it's always, you're trying to grab it, right? So it's always going to be slipping through your fingers. And that's how then the mind, what does the mind do? The mind's like, well, I don't have. So I'm going to go looking elsewhere, and I'm going to keep looking, right? So bright, shiny syndrome is on full effect, and you're looking everywhere else before you even have a chance to absorb the wisdom, the truth, the one little gem that was there for you that could have changed everything, but you missed it. You missed it because you were looking for something else, or it didn't show up the way that you thought it would, or you just didn't give it time to really soak in. They who truth and wisdom lead can gather honey from a weed. Now, when we look at value, you're ultimately looking at what it is that you're trading in the world. Sure, your money, but even more precious is your time, your effort, your energy. The human being in the human lifespan is so minuscule in the grand scheme of things. Just a blip, like barely a blip on the radar. And sure, if you want to look at the eternal nature of the soul, yeah, we could get into that whole conversation about, I'm just on my soul's journey and it's always leading to the same place anyway, and we'll get there, right? But at the end of the day, we have this life. This is the one thing that we have, that we know for sure is this moment. This is what we have. And how we utilize and value our time becomes incredibly important. And so often we abuse it. Now, I know Kisma and I are going to do a complete episode on time, so I don't want to get too deeply into that there, but I do want to invite you to consider how you value your time. Because to this conversation, it's relevant. It's valued through it's a particular dollar amount is put on your time, especially if you work in a corporate environment. You make X amount of dollars for X number of hours of work. How is that valued? Is that congruent with your values? You're trading your life. You're trading your life. And life is incredibly precious. When you think about a human being is infinitely valuable because a human being has infinite potential. But the value that we give right now is 100% determined by our choices. The impact that and the value that we contribute to the world, that we communicate into other people's lives, whether it's for business or whether it's just caring and sharing for one another in our families, in our friendships. The value that we bring to the table is 100% dependent on how we show up, and how we show up is 100% dependent on our choices, the decisions that we make on how and who we be in any given moment. So when we think about our value and what we're contributing in everyday life, you become infinitely more valuable the more that you step into your own potential. The more that you just choose in 5-year-old terms, right? It's like the terms of a 5-year-old. It's how you choose to show up as your best self. How often do you choose to show up as your best self? No matter what, the very best that you have to offer. How much time do you spend thinking about what you're supposed to be getting rather than what you're giving, what you're contributing? To become more valuable, contribute more value. And that comes just from showing up as your best self, because that is your best self, your full potential. Your full potential isn't like greedy and selfish and all these other weird things that human beings do. Your full potential self is happy and joyful, right? You imagine when you show up in your full potential and other people are around you, they're like, yeah, I just want to be around that person. They're awesome. I don't even care if I talk to them. I just want to be around them. It's that naturally charming kind of fun nature that people have. And when you show up in that, you contribute so much more value into people's lives. And then from there, like if that's something, like if you need to increase your income, if that's something that you want to do, well, there is an exchange for that, right? So where some people get a little off base with that is they get super into their hearts and they're like, I'm going to contribute value everywhere. And I'm just going to spread it everywhere, right? And that's exactly what they do. So they spread it everywhere, but they never really master that piece of either asking, for exchange for that, proper exchange for that. And monetary exchange for that is extremely appropriate, everybody, just so that you know. The best things in life are free, and it's proper that we pay for those things, right? So as you contribute, if somebody's struggling for income and they're way over distributing their value in all kinds of other places without boundaries, well, no question that their income is going to suffer for that. And it's simply, again, it comes back to, what does it come back to? A misunderstanding of value. Why? Because that person is not understanding their own value and what they're contributing into the world. And they're not valuing themselves. So it comes back to that, seeing and understanding that value within yourself, making sure that there are mechanisms in place for you to be compensated for that. But it's always the same answer, is coming back to you. Certainly the value that you choose to create. And on an even deeper level, it's that value of really understanding who and what you are. This is why, Kisma and I haven't really talked a ton about this on the podcast, but one of the things that super intrigued me about the Ultimate Life tool when we started to learn about it and study it, it's this amazing assessment tool. And what's so cool about it in my mind is that it doesn't look from the perspective of what's broken and what's wrong. It looks at your innate perfection and how, and like really not how, but what you are, and then how you operate in the world to really stay in and keep evolving your potential. And I just love that, because that's something that I truly believe is that human beings are inherently, they come in perfect. We're perfectly designed. Because to say anything less than that is to say that nature made a mistake. You use whatever God, whatever term you want for that. God made a mistake. If you're not perfect, God made a mistake, or nature made a mistake. I don't know. I just don't think that's true. I don't think nature makes mistakes. I think man makes mistakes, or men or women, human beings make the mistakes by not acting in conjunction with nature, by not following nature's rules, the laws that we've just spent several episodes, unwinding a few of those. So we come in with that innate perfection, and the more that we do what we are meant to do, in our way, in our unique way, like every human being is truly unique. That is a unique value that makes you priceless, truly priceless. But only if you choose to show up in that each and every day. Only if you choose to create value in the world rather than constantly trying to take it. And to do that in the beautiful and amazing way that you were designed to do that. That to me is the most powerful thing. And that to me is what makes human beings just so incredibly interesting and so powerful. It's that ability to choose how we show up in every day of our lives. It's the ability to choose how we guide our lives. It's the ability to choose what we create. In each and every moment, do we create a heaven or do we create a hell? Do we create something beautiful or do we create something horrific? Every day, every moment, we have that choice. So as I leave you with this episode, I invite you to consider that for yourself, is what do you truly value in your life? Write it down. And also write down a little description of your best self. Who's that? That's the person that we want to bring out every single day. That full potential aspect of you. Write it down. Write a love story and read it. Read it every day because it'll keep you true to that highest part of yourself. Thanks for being with me today, everybody. Thanks for enduring an episode without the sparkles of the great and powerful Kisma. She'll be back in the next episode. And more importantly, thank you for being you. Thank you for listening. Thank you for being a part of this journey with Illumination Podcast and Illumination Academy. Like, I can't even tell you how grateful we are and how amazed I am every day that I see the downloads come in, people sharing the episodes and sharing their insights on it. If you got something coming up for you and you want to bounce it off of somebody, by all means, drop us a line at info@sourcemovement.com. Let us know what's on your mind. If this is useful for you, please go ahead and share it. Give us a like and a subscription. You can subscribe to us on any of the normal podcast places. Give us a review. Those reviews go a long ways to getting the word out. We super, super appreciate that. We super appreciate you. And if you are intrigued by the Ultimate Life Tool, the assessment tool that Kisma and I use, and you want to explore that, there's a link on the podcast page, so you can go ahead and check that out. And just select the option that works best for you, and we will get that scheduled for you. It's a pretty amazing assessment tool. It will show you your innate perfection, all the amazing things that you can do, and put it, and I'll help you to put it in the context of your life. That's really my role in it. So thank you so much for being here, everybody. Have an amazing day, and we'll catch you in the next episode, back with the great and powerful Kisma. Peace.
Hey, thanks for jamming with us today. And if you enjoy Illumination Podcast, please go ahead and share it with someone you love. Give us a rating, review, download our podcast. And remember, you can find us at illuminationacademy.net/podcasts. Talk to you soon. Namaste.